Derek, I know you had a short story tonight that I think was similar to one that I had in my show prep for a couple days ago about a mom who's been arrested for using a naughty word.
Yeah, that's right. Reason.com reports about a woman who was arrested for cursing in a grocery store. According to a witness, Danielle Wolf cursed at her 2 little girls last week because they were squeezing the bread at a Kroger supermarket. We've all been there.
What'd she say?
She said, stop squishing the effing bread.
I guess they should stop squishing the effing bread then.
Well, they did. But Wolf said she was talking not to her children, but to her husband, who was recklessly tossing frozen pizzas into their shopping cart. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Either
I guess
way,
he should stop squishing the effing bread.
Either way, she committed a misdemeanor. So police had no choice but to handcuff her in front of her family.
Wow.
And cart her off to the station.
What is the misdemeanor exactly?
Disorderly conduct, of course. Didn't you know? Or so they say. The NBC station in Augusta, Georgia, police say, quote, because the law is on the books, they have to enforce it. The law in question defines disorderly conduct, a misdemeanor punishable by a maximum fine of $500 and up to 30 days in jail, to include, quote, uttering, while in a state of anger, in the presence of another, any bawdy, lewd, or obscene words or epithets. So once
any?
Yes, any at all. So once a shopper is offended by Wolf's salty language, complained to Officer Travis Smith, his hands were tied.
And he had to arrest him.
Had to do it. Had no discretion. Couldn't exercise that at all.
Ridiculous.
And the complainant, whose name was blacked out in the police report, said that the cursing reminded her of her traumatic childhood. So that's,
wow.
All right. Then she later apologized to Wolf by phone. Saying
wait, the complaining party apologized to the woman who was arrested? I don't know if I'm following all the names.
That's correct.
Okay,
yes.
Got it.
She apologized to Wolf, saying she did not expect her to be arrested. Yet, according to the police report, when Smith asked the scandalized shopper if she wished to testify in court about the incident, she said that she would. Only then did Smith proceed to arrest Wolf. So there we go.
Well, I can kind of see how a person might not have expected what happened to happen.
Right.
You know, like you can be like, sure, officer, if you're going to give her a ticket or whatever, I guess I can do that. But like, you know, it can be, it's one thing to talk about something happening to somebody. It's another thing entirely to see the situation.
Yeah.
Oh, this woman's being arrested in front of her 2 kids. I wonder what that's going to do to their psyche.
And it's all because of you, because of what you did, lady. You called the police on this lady, and I guess she felt a little bit guilty after the fact.
Yeah.
People don't realize what they're doing.
Made a big mistake by passing off the responsibility. Here she is. She had an opportunity to speak, person to person, have a real conversation about, hey, let's, would you mind keeping your language clean? We've got kids around here, or something like that.
That would have been all she had to have said.
Yeah, but instead she weaseled out, wanted to take away her own self-responsibility and pawn off the responsibility onto some cop. And,
cowardice.
I wish that people would remember when they invoke the police that they're calling a criminal gang with guns to use violence to address a situation.
And people don't understand. They don't understand what the likely outcome is going to be. Maybe they think the police officer is going to be some sort of a negotiator and come in and have a chit chat with somebody. But
I can't believe you use that kind of effing language in front of your kid. It's disgusting.
So, right. The reality is a lot of cops are very profane themselves in the way they handle the rest of us.
Go see some videos from Ferguson.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're lucky if you call the police and they don't violently attack somebody or shoot a dog. I guess there weren't any dogs around to be shot in the grocery store in this particular instance. But people don't realize that even if the officer were to just write her a ticket, that's still an arrest. She's still being restricted in her freedom. She's still obligated to show up at court, obligated to pay whatever the demands are, obligated to do whatever they're demanding of her. And so by making that phone call and bringing the police involved in this situation, she has absolutely sicked them on this woman, and she can't control. It's like you pull the old story, you pull the fire alarm, and you can't control what the firemen do when they show up and start hacking away at things with axes or whatever.
Unfortunately, it seems to be a situation of slave on slave on slave violence, because there's more.
Oh boy.
A Wolf, who is due in court September 12th, even apologized to the woman who turned her in, saying she would never say that word in public again. That's such a sad lesson to be learned, in my opinion.
So now do we have a situation where both people have apologized to each other?
Yes.
And the state will continue to bring charges.
Yeah. This is another instance where it's you get to see, right? So if there's a victim here, and I'm not sure who the victim is, it's certainly not the police officer. And or the people he works for. The people of the state of whatever have not been harmed here. And so the suggestion that somehow the money should go to the courts and this woman should be drugged to the courts,
$500.
it doesn't make any sense. They're gonna get some money out of this, and they weren't wronged.
Yeah, no one was wronged here. It's weird that the person wasn't able to even say something to the woman. She had to say something to a police officer.
It's cowardly.
So weak.
Well, I'm sorry she had whatever encounters she had when she was a kid that were damaging to her, but the idea of restricting free speech, I think, is a problem. Now, you could, of course, point out that this wasn't a public forum. This was a grocery store, and the grocery store may not want to have their customers in there cursing and causing a scene, in which case the solution is, again, not to call the police, but to simply, maybe reach out to, if you want to be a busybody, at the very least, you could reach out to the store manager and say, there's customers here who are doing things that are making me uncomfortable. I'll give you an example of when I've actually done something like this, and I don't like snitching, but I was approached by a panhandler on the way into a Publix in South Florida once, and I know that if I had a store, I would not want a panhandler hanging out front of the store. So I let the manager know, hey, you've got a panhandler out there, just wanted to give you a heads up. I don't want to see the panhandler get arrested.
You heartless libertarians.
I just want him to go away. Go bother people in a median or something like that. Don't be standing out in front of the grocery store. That's something that's gonna drive customers away. And I figured I'd share that.
What you need to do if you're going to panhandle in front of a grocery store is you need young people for a cause, and their little
like
outfits.
The Girl Scouts.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.